Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Bridges, Rougarou Prograde.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 356 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing this week, my man?
I'm doing good, my man. How about you?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. Okay, so we're going to dive straight into the review part of the show. We're going to start here with this one. It took place last Saturday, of course, August the 6th at the SSE Arena, the Odyssey Arena in Belfast, Northern Ireland, UK. Over here, I didn't see much of this card because it clashed with the DAZN card. So I'm going to just kind of run through the undercard. Tyrone McKenna, a unanimous decision over 10 rounds against Chris Jenkins. Tyrone McKenna now 23-3 with a draw. Chris Jenkins now 23-6 with 3 draws. Most people, if not all, were saying that Chris Jenkins deserved to win that, deserved to get the decision, but he didn't get it. Unanimous in the end for the home fighter, Tyrone McKenna. I did say that I could see a few underdogs picking up wins last week, and this was one of those fights, but unfortunately it seems like even though the underdog Chris Jenkins probably deserved it, he didn't get the decision, so people are calling for a rematch there already. It was a great fight, by the way. The little clips I did see, it was like fight of the year type stuff. I'm a bit sad that I didn't watch it live and in its full capacity because I didn't go back and watch it. I only saw little clips. Paddy Donovan with a win. He's now 9-0, a points win over 8 against Tom Hill, who's now 10-3. Padraig McCrory now 14-0, a TKO in round 5 for the WBC International Silver Super Middleweight title against Marco Antonio Periban, who's now 26-6 with a draw. And the main event, the main attraction, Michael Conlan now 17-1. He bounces back from being stopped by Lee Wood. He got in with Miguel Mariaga, the always very tough fighter. He's now 30-6, a unanimous decision over 10 rounds there for Michael Conlan. He was credited with 3 knockdowns, 1 in the 7th, 1 in the 8th, 1 in the 9th. I think he himself said that most of them really should have just been ruled as slips. So honest of Michael Conlan to come out and say Mariaga, I don't think he was ever going to get stopped. It was quite smart money, really, to back Conlan for the points win. My only question mark was, how was he going to look getting right back in with an even bigger puncher than Lee Wood in Miguel Mariaga? But to be honest with you, for the most part of what I saw, it seemed like Mariaga wanted to stand and kind of box. I guess, that wasn't the things he should have been doing against Conlan. He didn't seem to want to turn it into a brawl. He wasn't in a rush, and then he tried to turn it into a fight late on, and he kind of left it a bit too late. But it seemed like he caught Michael Conlan with some big shots late on in the fight, but they were saying, why didn't he do this earlier? So Miguel Mariaga decided he wanted to try and outbox Michael Conlan early, and I think it cost him in the end. Moving out now to this card here, as I say, at the Sheffield Arena. It was live on DAZN. Dalton Smith topped the bill. He's now 12-0, a TKO in round 6 against Samo Mason. I think the pair had done many rounds sparring in the past. Samo Mason now 17-4 with a draw. It was for the vacant British super lightweight title, so Dalton Smith now the British champion. O'Mason down once in the 3rd round and twice in round 6. Don't really have much to add to the main event, just that Dalton Smith looked good once again, and he is deserving of the title of being, one of the best prospects we have. Elsewhere on the card, Sandy Ryan was able to avenge her points loss to Erica Farias. So Sandy Ryan now 4-1, a unanimous decision there over 10 2-minute rounds against Erica Farias, now 27-6. It was for the WBC International Super Lightweight title. Happy for her. It was still quite close on two of the cards, 6-4 twice, and then 8-2 on Terry O'Connor's card. But happy for Sandy Ryan, who I think went away and prepared diligently for the rematch. I think she knew that it was a must-win fight, really, to get her career back on track. And, I'm happy for her to have avenged that loss there because, you could see she went away. She didn't, I don't think, allow it to get the better of her. I think she had to kind of get a grip on herself a little bit, and train harder, go back to the drawing board and come back better. And I think she did, and it was smarter work and everything. So she boxed at times and she got involved at times, and she, I think, was the rightful winner. Elsewhere on the card, Jordan Thompson, now 14-0. He was able to beat unanimously over 10 Vasil Dukar, who's now 11-6 with a draw, much better than his record suggests. It was for the IBF European Cruiserweight title. The shocker here was that Jordan Thompson himself was down. Jordan Thompson was in full control, but he'd never been past 4 rounds in almost 7 years as a pro. And in that final round, like I say, he was down. He was down heavy. The bell went while he was on his knees, to end the round, to end the fight. And all he needed to do was get up and he would have won. And he got up at 9. And like I say, he managed to seal the deal unanimously. And thank God for him that it wasn't a 12-rounder. It was only 10 rounds, because I think, he was certainly done right at the end. And I don't know if it was just a combination of bad defense and tiredness that put him in that position, because he looked quite good early on, but as the fight wore on, like I say, I think he got a bit tired. Hadn't obviously been past 4 rounds ever, like I said, and his defense wasn't too great late on as well. And obviously Dukar's quite a battle-hardened type of fighter, so he caused him a lot of issues there. And God, He was really at risk of losing that fight in the dying seconds, Jordan Thompson. Elsewhere on the card, Hopey Price with a win. He's now 8-0, a points win over 8 against Alexander Mejia, who's now 18-4. Kieran Conway with a win, now 18-2 with a draw, a TKO in round 5 against Gregory Trenell, now 16-9 with 2 draws. Campbell Hatton now 8-0, a points win over 6 against Michael Dufek, who's now 34-24 with 2 draws. Hatton made quite an explosive start to the fight. He hurt his man very early on with a body shot in the first round, and I was worried that he would gas out, and try and pour it all out straight away. But to be fair, he did box well. He won every round against, as I said, a much more experienced man, and I felt it was a good learning fight. I think he's improving all the time at a decent speed, to be fair. So, no real problem from my point of view with that. Johnny Fisher now 6-0, a TKO in round 2 against Michael Resinger, who's now 3-2. 2 big overhand rights, one after the other, that both landed on the button, put Resinger down, and he went down hard, but he got back up and beat the count. And for me, Steve Gray, the referee, waved it off just a bit too quickly. I think we knew what was going to happen anyway with big Johnny Fisher, but I think they could have allowed Resinger a few more chances, or at least one more chance, man, because he's not a terrible fighter. I think he's tough, So I think he could have carried on, but the referee Steve Gray put a stop to that. So it is what it is. Bosh, as Johnny Fisher would say. Moving out now to the Commerce Casino in Los Angeles, California. This one over here, friend of the show, Sulem Urbina, now 13-2 with a draw. Split decision win over 6 round against Josep Vizcaino, who's now 10-10 there. All the best to Sulem Urbina. And moving out now to the final card to mention of the review part of the show. It took place at the Dickies Arena in Fort Worth, Texas, USA. It was live on DAZN. So DAZN had, an early card and a late card on Saturday evening. On Saturday period, I should say. Let's start with the undercard, I think. We're going to start with the undercard. Marlon Esparza with a points win over 10 2-minute rounds against the very tough Eva Guzman, who's now 19-2 with a draw. That was a defense there of Esparza's WBA and WBC flyweight world titles. Good stuff for Esparza. Alex Martin with a win. Kind of questionable as well, actually, because he was down in the first round against Hank Lundy. Alex Martin now 17-5. Lundy now 31-11 with a draw. I felt it was close, but I felt that Hank Lundy, possibly won, but in the end he lost quite wide on the cards. Like I say, despite putting Alex Martin down in the very first round. Bektemir Melakuziev now 10-1, a TKO in round 3 against Sladan Janjanin. Again, argument for slightly early on the stoppage there, but I think the writing was on the wall with that one. Janjanin was taking a real hiding, but he certainly came to fight and came to give it a good go. He's now 32-12. Let's start, I guess, with the co-main. Maurice Hooker now 27-3 with 3 draws. He lost a unanimous decision over 10 rounds against Blair Cobbs, who was coming off that knockout defeat to Alexis Rocha. He's now 16-1 with a draw. Hooker down once in round 1, twice in round 2. A real shock for me. A real shock. This did upset a couple bets that I had on. Hooker looked like a Blair Cobbs looked like a completely different man. He had a bit of swagger about him. The afro was nowhere to be seen. He had his hair tied back, and he had a rhythm. He had a bit of rhythm about his work. I think he's training with a new team, if I'm not mistaken. I think in his last fight, Freddie Roach was with him, but this time he's got a new team, and he dropped Hooker in the first round with a right hook, and then he drops him again, obviously in the second round with a straight left hand, and then again with another punch in the dying seconds of that second round. Hooker got up and the bell went. He was probably saved by the bell pretty much in that second round, and Hooker's legs just looked like they were being tied down with bricks. He seemed so heavy-legged, and Hooker was in a world of trouble early on, and to be honest, pretty much every round after that, Hooker just seemed to be following Cobbs around the ring, purposely keeping his distance. He didn't want to get near him, even though he was way behind on the cards. The fight wasn't great in the end, and I think that was pretty much down to Hooker. He fought terribly at times. He boxed like he'd bet on Cobbs to win on points. That was honestly how it looked, and it was one of the worst performances I've ever seen from a former world champion. I really have to go as far as to say that it was such a terrible performance from Maurice Hooker. The crowd were booing. Hooker's timing was off. His accuracy was embarrassing. At one point, Terence Crawford had to get up on the ring apron and shout instructions into his ear between rounds. He was absolutely helpless. And I don't even think he could have won the fight if he had a baseball bat in one hand and a glove in the other, because he was that disappointing. I honestly don't know if I feel for him or not. He's a friend of the show. Both men are. So I always want you to do well. So I didn't really care as such who won the fight. I felt that Blair Cobbs needed the win, I guess, more than Hooker did, because Blair Cobbs is still, has aspirations, I guess, of getting to the top, whereas Maurice Hooker's kind of had his day. Can he do it at a weight above? We're yet to see it. It's certainly not looking like it's going to happen now. But yeah, Maurice Hooker was so terrible, and I'm happy for Blair Cobbs, because like I say, it was a tough task. He was the underdog, and he boxed really well. I think he boxed really well. I was quite impressed with his gas tank as well, late on as well. But Hooker, just didn't seem to be at the races. Doesn't even look like the same fighter he once was. Looked very gun shy. very early on. I guess you can kind of understand why to some extent. But yeah, I mean, it was hard to give Hooker any rounds as the fight wore on. And yeah, I just don't know what to say about the guy. He was with Eddie Hearn. He was a world champion fighting on DAZN. He was one of Eddie's, I think, first signings when he made that mini invasion to America. And Maurice Hooker, obviously, has just found himself in such a dark spot. Obviously, not with... certainly not with the A side anymore. And I'm not even sure he was the A side for this fight against Blair Cobbs. I'm not too sure. I think he may have slightly been the A side, but if there even was one, it was like a 50-50 kind of fight, really, the way it was billed and built. And he was coming off that knockout loss to Virgil Ortiz, of course, and his whole career's just kind of gone down the pan a little bit after losing his world title. And this here is like, this is like the nail in his coffin almost. And I think a lot of it had to do with how he performed. I almost feel like no one is excited for his next fight. And I think a lot of people feel like he should just retire based off of that. It was that underwhelming. As for Blair Cobbs, I am excited for the next step. I think there's big fights that can be made. I'm not sure who he should fight next. I think that is a really important move. I think, if he was to suffer a loss next time out, it would stop things again. But I think they need to be careful with who they choose for him next time out. But based on what we saw the other night, he seems so much more improved, and I was really impressed. And moving on to the main event, friend of the show, Michael McKinson, now 22-1. He was TKO'd in round 9 by Virgil Ortiz Jr. He has been taken to a place he's never been before, Virgil Ortiz. He'd never been he'd never been into round 9, and he still, though, has that 100% knockout ratio going. 19-0, 19 KOs. McKinson down in round 8 and round 9. It was for the WBO International Welterweight title. The first round was a really good opening round for both men, really. I think McKinson didn't seem fazed by the stage he was on. He decided to stand with Ortiz and trade, maybe one or two times too many, but he was trading when he wanted to. He was commanding Ortiz's respect, I felt, and there was a head clash as well early on, and we saw Ortiz cut on his eye in the first round slightly. I think it was his right eye. Second round was a better round for McKinson. I thought he may have nicked the round. The commentators, I didn't feel, were giving him much credit because he wasn't so much the aggressor, but I liked his counter-punching, his jabs. He was piercing the guard of Ortiz. Round 3 was a clear round for Ortiz. I think McKinson did have a small couple moments. He landed a lovely backhand right at the start of the round, and also, at times seemed to maybe annoy Ortiz a little bit with some of his work. And Ortiz, though, responded by upping the gears, and McKinson lost his mouthpiece momentarily as well, so I gave that round to Ortiz. On my card, though, I had it, I gave Ortiz the first round, I just edged it to him, so I had it 2-1 to Ortiz after 3, but I could certainly see 3-0. Round 4 was a dominant round for Ortiz. Round 5 was another round for Ortiz. I felt McKinson was kind of letting the fight slip away. It was getting to that territory where he would need to win every round just to get a draw, or maybe would even need a knockout or a couple knockdowns, and it didn't look like it was going to happen, and we knew that from before the first bell. Ortiz was just a bit too good, a bit too strong, and he had no respect for McKinson's power. Round 6, a much better round though for McKinson. He was making Ortiz miss a lot. He started to land more shots himself. Ortiz did have his head rocked back a couple times. I had it 4-2 after 6. Round 7, a better round again from McKinson. He was growing in confidence, I felt, and they spoke to his dad, who's also his trainer, in between the fight and in between, I think, this round, and the dad said this was the plan. We were going to, get through the first half of the fight and then come on strong late on. But yeah, like I say, in the 7th round, he was getting his shots off, McKinson, first, rather than waiting too long for openings and being outworked, which was happening a little bit early on. So I had it 4-3, and I could see maybe 5-2, but I did have it 4-3 to Ortiz. Round 8, I felt McKinson was having a really good round until he got caught with a body shot late on that, of course, put him down. I don't know if it was a broken rib or something. It looked like that initially. He got back up and didn't take another shot, and obviously got out the round. He danced around for the final few seconds, and then literally the very first punch of the 9th round was a punch that Ortiz landed pretty much on the same spot on McKinson, and the punch really didn't look like much at all, but McKinson went down again. He was grimacing, something didn't look right, and when he kind of got back up to his feet, he was limping on his legs, and yeah, he got back up, but the towel came in from his father. McKinson did say before the fight he'd never been hurt ever before. I don't think he'd even been buzzed, let alone down. And we saw a really, really good chin from McKinson. I think McKinson, honestly, based off of that performance, providing he's 100%, I think he gives almost anyone in the world problems, maybe outside of a Crawford or, you know, some of those top elite guys, but he's a really good contender. The only thing that hurts him is he doesn't have the power, I think, that some of these other guys do have in abundance as well. I'd like to see McKinson in with Keith Thurman. I think that's a great fight for McKinson. I'd love to see that fight. I don't really know how it would go, but that's a fight I really like. But anyway, that brings the review part of the show to a close. The final thing for me to do in this part of the show is to welcome our special guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated female super-flyweight prospect. It is, of course, Miss Shannon Ryan. Shannon, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure. So, Shannon, first things first, how are you, and are you enjoying this unexpected kind of second heat wave we're having?
Yeah, so I'm in training camp at the moment, but I love training when it's sunny outside. Some people hate it, but no, it's just really motivating. So yeah, I'm really enjoying the heat wave.
Excellent. Okay. That's an unpopular opinion, but yeah, okay, that's fine. Obviously, you made the decision to turn pro with 258 Management, Anthony Joshua's boxing management company. For them to sign you right from your debut, I think caught a lot of people's attention because although there aren't a huge number of fighters under 258, the fighters they do have are all supremely talented. So automatically, without even seeing you fight, people, I think, kind of thought, okay, this girl must be special. But tell me, how did that first come about? When were you first discovered?
Yeah, so I started boxing in 2018, in August 2018. I used to kickbox before, but it was a complete different type of kickboxing. So it's not the K1, it's the points fighting where you stop and start. So like freestyle karate, basically. So in 2018, I started at Finchley ABC. And I think then when I was an amateur, I think I just caught the eye and progressed on. In 2019, I won the Women's Winter Box Cup and was going to go on to do the Elite. But then COVID happened, and then we decided to use that time to work on the pro game with myself and my coach, who is called Coach G. And then, obviously, I'm from Watford. Anthony Josh is from Watford. And I think it was just for me, just standing out in the amateurs, training and things. And I just think that caught the eye. And, yeah, just an opportunity that I just grabbed with both hands.
And did you know Anthony on a personal level any time before signing?
So personally, I obviously knew of him, but my family know him also, just from growing up. I have an elder sister as well, but yeah. Okay.
And of course, you made your pro debut March 26th as part of that Riakporhe Juma undercard. I remember watching your debut live. I remember you boxing Claudia Ferenzi, one of the toughest girls in the sport, to be totally honest. How do you assess that looking back now, Shannon, that pro debut?
Yeah, do you know what? I thought it was a really good debut, if I'm completely honest, because you have to remember you've got the media week, the pressures of obviously people watching you. You're in the ring, the lights, the cameras. And I thought I displayed really good boxing. I wanted her to throw a lot more, but she didn't. And I think I've done a good job, and I'm happy with that debut, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, she's a bit negative. Obviously, she's got a bunch of losses, but barely ever gets stopped. So it all kind of makes sense. My only thing,
she's very tough.
Yeah, no, she is. My only thing, but it's completely understandable. But you was a little bit eager, I thought, trying to impress a little bit too much on your debut. I just thought. Just a tiny bit.
I wouldn't say impress, because I'm not here to impress anyone but myself, really.
There we go.
But I think, yeah, the first one was if we look at the second one, it was a lot slower. I'm just naturally quick anyway. I come in lighter on that debut, whereas on the second one, I come in at the weight. Naturally, I am a flyweight. We're just starting out at Super-Fly. But yeah, I don't think I wouldn't say ego. I think it was just the occasion, excitement, nerves all in one, just trying to display a good performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, your pro debut is understandable. You touched on your second fight. You boxed Gemma Rug, another tough girl, another 4-round points win. Yeah, tell me about that one. As you say, a little bit slower, I guess a little bit more controlled. And yeah, another fight where you completely haven't lost a round. And yeah, you still haven't lost a round as a pro.
Yeah, so that second one, I kind of knew what to expect now, So how I felt going into that one was a lot better and calmer than the first. I was still very quick, but that's just my fighting style, But yeah, she just moved a lot. So I feel like as the round went on, I could have changed up the shots a little bit more. But again, that's all the learning, and you go back to the drawing board and you improve every single time.
Yeah, for sure. And your next fight, you'll be stepping up to 6 rounds. Are you excited for those 2 extra rounds?
Yeah, 2 minutes are just really short. I'm not a fan of that. But how it is at the women's boxing, I have to, proceed with that. But I hope it changes to 3 minutes in the future. So yeah, I'm happy to get those extra 2 rounds because obviously the 4-2s, that just goes super quick.
Yeah, that was actually going to be one of my questions, whether you preferred or would prefer 3-minute rounds. So you've answered that one there. You'll be boxing Bushra El Kwasi. I could have butchered that name, to be honest. Not entirely sure how it's pronounced, but you'll be boxing her on the Shields Marshall undercard at the O2, September 10th. The one thing we know about Bushra is that she's only been stopped one time. It was to Shannon Courtney. Can Shannon Ryan become the second girl, the second Shannon to stop her?
I'll do my best. But obviously the aim is, a lot of people will say they don't go in there looking for it. If it's there, I'll jump on it and take the opportunity. But I'm just going to box and just display good boxing skills, and what happens on that night will happen on that night. All I know is I will be victorious on that night, and whichever way it goes, whether it's points or knockout, the win is the win at the end of the day.
And am I right in saying that prior to signing a pro contract, you worked for the phone network O2 and you were based at the O2 Arena, and now you're sponsored by O2 as a pro, and now you're boxing at the O2 Arena? Am I right in saying that?
Slightly. So yes, you're correct in saying I did work at O2, but it was in the Watford store for 5 years, the phone shop. But yeah, and then I went part-time there when I started boxing full-time, and yeah, now I'm partnered with them, and then I'll be fighting at the O2, which is absolutely incredible.
That's mad. That's so cool. How does it feel to be a part of this groundbreaking fight card, though, which of course only features women's boxing from top to bottom, and the fact that it's at the O2 Arena is such a ballsy move, I think, from the promoters. How happy are you to be a part of this show?
Yeah, do you know what? I'm very happy. I've got high aspirations for myself in this sport. A lot of goals that I want to achieve, and to be a part of history with amazing, talented fighters on this card is exceptional. And I just have to continue to work hard. And yeah, I'm just blessed and grateful to be a part of it.
And are you a fan in particular of any of the ladies that are fighting on the card the same night as you? Yeah,
do you know what? Clarissa Shields and Savannah Marshall, both of them, they both display good skills in boxing, and they're very different from one another. I really like Alicia Baumgardner as well. So yeah, it'll be a good night of boxing.
Yeah, I'll just tell you something about Clarissa. I've had her on the podcast many times before. There's one particular episode where we sung together. We did a duet during an interview. So you're lucky I don't put you through that this time. But maybe one time in the future. Who is your favorite? Who is your favorite female boxer right now, if you have one, Shannon?
My favorite female boxer at this present moment in time, Estrada. Cynthia Estrada. That's the weight below. She's American. Yeah. I think, do you know, the boxers that just don't display the same skill set? You know, Alicia Baumgardner, Estrada, you know, where they're just not kind of one-dimensional. There's something, you don't know what's going to happen next, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, Sinisa Estrada. Yeah, it looks like Jennifer Lopez, but is wild with her punches. Yeah. Brilliantly exciting fighter to watch as well. Love seeing her stop girls, which is something that doesn't happen always at flyweight, whether it's men's boxing or women's boxing. I want to ask you, Shannon, what do you think of Ebanie Bridges? I know that that's potentially a fight for you down the line. I'm sure you've probably thought about it, but the way that she obviously carries herself, it can divide opinion. Obviously, we all know that she went from, you know, selling socks and wearing thongs to weigh-ins. What's your views on the way she carries herself, being a female in the sport?
Yeah, do you know what? Everyone's got goals to achieve in this sport, you know, and what she's done is she's brought eyes to the sport at the end of the day. And if that's how she's wanting to do it, she's just being herself, you know. I don't know her personally, but I think she's a very real person, from what I'm kind of seeing on social media, and through her interviews and just the way she talks and presents herself. You know, I think how she is in boxing, I think that might be how she is, you know, all the time. She's confident. She works hard in the gym. She's got a title belt. So yeah, I can't knock her for what she's doing, and it's brought eyes on the sport, and that's what we want.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair comment. Obviously, you know, she has a lot of people following her, some for boxing, I guess some not so much for boxing, and that is the one bad thing I think about being a female fighter at the moment. I almost feel sorry for some of you because you're prone to at times receiving like really weird DMs and stuff on social media. We've heard other girls come out and talk about that. Have you been on the receiving end?
Yeah, there's been a few, but it's just the world that we live in, unfortunately. Some are funny, some are just like, what are you doing? But again, it's each to their own. If that's what gets them through their day, then so be it.
And I want to ask you this as well, because I've seen you in person. I saw you, I think it was at, I can't remember who fought now, but it was a card recently at the O2 that you were at. Who topped that bill now?
Okay. The Sheffield one?
No. It was at the O2.
Derek Chisora?
So yes,
or just
yes. Yeah, no, it was. I was at both, but I think it was the Chisora one. It might have been Buatsi. I can't remember now. But anyway, I remember seeing you there, and I didn't think that you were that short. I think you probably had heels on. But when I saw you were a super fly, I thought, wow, she didn't strike me as being so short. I wanted to ask, how tall are you, Shannon?
I'm 5'1".
Okay. So the heels were deceiving. Okay.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm naturally a flyweight, but the plan is just to get these fights under my belt at Superfly, and then move down once I've had a few more fights in this division.
Okay, so the aim is to get back to flyweight in terms of when you're fighting for titles and stuff.
Yeah. So we'll drop down, and then we'll come back up, get the titles there, and then move like that, really.
Wicked. Okay, perfect. All right then, Shannon. Well, just before we wrap things up, I just wanted to throw it over to you. If you've got any closing words at all that you want to just sign out with before we let you go, and also don't forget to plug your socials as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, so to whoever is listening to this, thank you for all of the support and the ongoing kind messages that I receive from you all. Just looking forward to this boxing journey and this next fight. And if you're not following me on the socials, my Instagram is Shannon Ryan _, and then I've also got a YouTube channel which is just Shannon Ryan.
Yeah, I was going to say plug the YouTube as well. I see that there's a couple of behind-the-scenes stuff for your fights and stuff, which is cool. But listen, Shannon, it's been amazing speaking with you. Thank you for your time. Best of luck September 10th at the O2, and I'm sure I'll catch up with you sometime afterwards.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. We're going to start here with this one. Boxer have signed Jack Catterall to an exclusive promotional agreement. Happy for Jack Catterall, friend of the show. So that's going to be what they're working on. I think they're going to be going for that Josh Taylor rematch, I believe. I think there's already even a date for that. I'm not too sure, but anyway, good stuff to see Jack Catterall going to be boxing back on Sky. In other news, another piece of news associated with Boxer, we have Natasha Jonas making her world title defense in her hometown in Liverpool. So she's going to be fighting in a unification there, 3rd of September against the WBC champion Patricia Bergholt. Tickets are on sale now. They start at £40. All the best there to Natasha Jonas. In other news, what else do we have in other news? One other piece of news, I think. The undercard has been announced for Clarissa Shields and Savannah Marshall. Again, that's going to be in London at the O2 Arena on September 10th. We have Caroline Dubois on the undercard. We also have Lauren Price and Caris Artingstall, or Artingstall, I'm not sure how it's said. And we also have Ebony Jones getting in with Vanessa Caballero. We have Ginny Fuchs as well. I think the American lady, she gets in with Gemma Rugg. We've got April Hunter getting in with Georgia O'Connor. We have Shannon Ryan, who we just spoke to, getting it on with Bucha El Kwasi. We also, of course, have, as we already knew, Michaela Mayer and Alicia Baumgardner. It's going to be a fantastic night of boxing. Tickets start at just £25, by the way, and every fight on the card is a female fight, so that is quite unbelievable. And then, the final piece of news, it's official. We're going to see it Saturday, October the 8th, Eddie, in London at the O2 Arena. Chris Eubank Jr. gets in with Conor Benn. Their fathers, of course, had a bitter rivalry, and this one is being billed as, I think they're calling it Born Rivals. So we're going to see a catch weight, I believe, of 156 or 157 pounds. Obviously, Chris Eubank Jr. pretty much has always been really like a middleweight. I think he moved up to super middle, and Conor Benn is a 147 fighter. So a lot of people are talking about if Chris Eubank's going to be dehydrated and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people are siding with Chris Eubank Jr. to win that fight, and quite brutally, by the way. But anyway, that is it for the news part of the show. Moving on to the preview part, we're going to start here tomorrow at the Findlay Toyota Center in Prescott Valley, Arizona, USA. Over here, topping the bill, we had him on last week's show, Tevin Farmer, 30-5 with a draw. He gets in with Mickey Bay, 23-3 with a draw. Both men in similar stages of their careers, both former world champions, and I think the loser is really in no man's land. So it's a must-win for both men, really, if they have any aspirations of carrying on. Friend of the show as well on the undercard, Tremaine Williams, aka the Mighty Midget, 19-1, gets in with Jetro Pabuston, who is 31-9 with 6 draws. That's over 10 rounds there. And also Lorenzo Truck Simpson, 11-0, gets in with Ty Edmonds, who's 14-4. That's over 8 rounds there. All the best to Lorenzo Simpson. Moving out now to the final card to mention. It takes place at the Resorts World Las Vegas in Nevada, USA. It's going to be live on ESPN. I'm assuming it's It's going to be live in the UK on Sky Sports. Let's talk about the undercard briefly. Just one fight really of note to mention. The Puerto Rican fighter Xander Zayas, 13-0. I think last time he was supposed to be boxing on, I think it was a big undercard, but he had to pull out, and I think he was in tears. He had to pull out because he was ill or whatever. He gets in with Elias Espadas, who's 22-4, and the main event, all eyes over to the main event. Teofimo Lopez makes his 140 debut. He is 16-1. He's coming off that loss to George Kambosos. He gets in with Pedro Campa, who's 34-1 with a draw. Obviously, friend of the show, Teofimo Lopez, love to see him get back to it. We know that he had some serious issues health-wise right before that George Kambosos fight. That's what he's come out and said. He said that I think his issue was so bad that he should have never been anywhere near a boxing ring. I think the doctors were shocked that he was even able to stand up for those 12 rounds against George Kambosos. But yeah, I'm going to throw it to you, Eddie, if you wanted to say anything just before we wrap it up here, because I haven't spoke to you. But obviously, Tevin Farmer against Mickey Bay, headlining tomorrow night in Arizona. And then Saturday night, Teofimo Lopez returning to the ring against Pedro Campa. I got to be honest, I haven't seen much of Campa. But it's going to be good to see if Teofimo can make a splash at 140.
Yeah. The Mickey Bay and Tevin Farmer fight's going to be pretty interesting. Both good boxers, both good pedigrees, championship level guys. Fight's been put off a couple times. I don't know if it was a couple times, but it was supposed to be a couple different places. So it seemed like it was in jeopardy of happening at all. Nice to see us back on. Interesting fight. Both guys are good guys. Both guys are really talented fighters, really talented boxers. It's going to be an interesting. I think it's a boxing fan-friendly kind of fight. You know what I mean? Maybe not necessarily for the lay fan, the fan who just wants to see slugging and all that. Which no disrespect to them, but this is like I said, this fight is going to have some IQ in it. You're going to have to pay attention to the little minor details and finer things. It's going to be a well put together. It's a well put together situation, but. Like I said, it's going to take some educated eyes to really understand what's going on and to see the value in this kind of a fight. But interesting, all the same. And it's, of course, I really don't know about much about his opponent, as you don't either, Joe. But will be interesting to see him back in the ring, and he's moving up. I think he was obviously having problems a little bit making the 35, so. It's kind of interesting that we'll get an opportunity to really see how he's faring at the heavier weight, not having to worry about that extra weight cut. We'll give him some more strength and let him focus a little bit more on just fighting and not having to lose weight or focus on any fighter knows it had to make weight, which is not necessarily my kind of an issue, but I put the pressure on myself just to make sure I made a weight, just for the purpose of discipline, but. When guys have to actually do it, it's really, really tough on them, and I can only imagine how much they have to go through. But in this case, it's nice to see him, actually being able just to go in and thinking about the fight only, and being focused on what you can do to get better as a fighter too. And we've seen him at the top of the mountain. He's a talented guy. I'm sure that he can get back to where he was and back to his winning ways. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in this first fight at 140, but. I'm sure he'll come out on top and look good doing it.
Let's hope so. At his best, prior to that Kambosos fight at 135, he was just lighting people up. He was one of the most exciting fighters, to watch really in world boxing, and particularly amongst that young little bunch of names that we all kind of sew together with, Garcia and Shakur Stevenson. He was certainly probably the one to watch. Him and Gervonta, I think. Just because they got that equalizer, in both hands, it would seem. So, I hope we get to see him look the same way he looked prior to the fight with Kambosos. Maybe the weight cut really was depleting him in a way that, was almost shocking to see unfold in that upset of the year when he lost to Kambosos. So hopefully he moves up here this extra 5 pounds and he looks as good as he used to look. And it'll be an exciting addition at that at that weight. Obviously, we've got the likes of Josh Taylor, I guess the main man there. So yeah, big fights can be made down the line, but I can't wait to see him back. I think I'm secretly really looking forward to seeing him back in, because he does have the charisma as well that a lot of those guys don't have. He pretty much has it all, to be honest, Teofimo Lopez, providing he can put it all together on Saturday night. Really excited for his ring return. But anyway, that is it for the preview part of the show, and that's it pretty much for everything. The final thing that I have to do is to come in with the outro, which I'm going to do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 356 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A huge thank you to the fabulous Shannon Ryan for being our guest this week. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. Please remember, if you do have a spare minute or two, please leave us a review on iTunes. They really mean a lot, those reviews. But that's about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.